Go live just a couple minutes early here and hit the airwaves, allow some folks to make their way in. Hope everybody's doing great out there. Welcome to the Friday live stream here on the Independent Investor Channel. Very humbling week for me. Hit the millionaire status this week and didn't even know it. God's honest truth, man. For you guys that have been with me for quite some time, been doing YouTube 10 years, and I know there's patrons who have stuck with me. They understand the genuine approach to my, sharing awareness to the market. That's what it comes down to. There's not a whole lot of names that I talk about outside of the speculative investments, and hopefully we get to have some dialogue on the very reason as to why that happened for me. Just last week, obviously the stock has come off just a touch, and we moved below that 7-figure mark. But that's the 11th threshold of wealth that I talk about for people. I'm 47 years old. Did I make it fast enough, or did I make it, too slow? I typically try to focus on people not spending so much time comparing themselves to others. It's not an exercise that I typically engage in, nor do I understand. I know social media breeds that type of activity, and I just don't know what positive comes out of it. I think if I were to spend most of my time focused on what everybody else is doing and their program, I think I would spread myself so thin. And I see you there, Mariusz. Let me just give a couple minutes here and I'll get the intro done and bring you on. We've got a special guest tonight on the live stream. Good friend of mine, actually, through YouTube. Never met the guy in person, but ironically enough, I was picking up a Little Caesars in Virginia. I remember specifically when I got an email from Mariusz, actually, just kind of inquiring about what I do, and don't remember the specific particulars of the email, which is tough for me because I get inundated with emails every single day, and a lot of them I don't have time to even read. But his was actually genuine, reached out to me as a person, not a spammer, and said, "Hey man, we might have some synergies to work through. I think we should talk," and we did. And it's been interesting since then. You know, I think the social media landscape is an interesting one. And for an educated investor like myself, who have been brought to stocks that I would have never found if it weren't for guys like Mariusz and the small network of stock investors. There's a few more as well, a few that don't do social media content. And those are the folks that I really gravitate to. It's made a hell of a lot of difference. I tell you what, you put somebody on a good stock, you're be hard pressed in social media to get somebody say thank you, But last week over 2 days, I jumped up over $150,000 in 2 days. Now, for you guys that are making your way into the live stream and catch this after the fact, I kind of want you to ask yourself, when was the last time somebody gave you $150,000 worth of advice? Now, I'm significantly more up on that particular trade that we're going to talk about this evening. But I really want people to put into context where it is they're putting their noses to try to find success in this world. There's so many people that would say, you can't do a blue collar job, or you can't invest this way, or you can't invest that way. I'm more interested in the people like Mariusz who come on and say, hey, you can do it this way, right? It's not perfect, but here, you can do it this way. If it fits for you, you can do it this way. And the whole idea about the transparency on the Independent Investor Channel, and I know what he and others are trying to do is just convey more of a testimonial about what it is that he and guys like myself do. Because let's be real, man, you would never have the opportunity to meet a guy like me just rubbing shoulders in Walmart. Okay. You don't get to work with me in a professional sense. You will probably never cross paths with me in this life. The social media allows us to do those things. And I think it's pretty cool. And I don't know what else to say other than in some small capacities, and in my case, a rather large capacity, you can profit from it. And at the end of the day, I'm not looking to do this to make myself feel better about myself. I'm not looking to do it to entertain you. I'm not looking to do it to waste my time. The bottom line for me, first and foremost, is money. That's it. And I think people need to be more aggressive in their pursuit of money in this life, because for me, money is synonymous with security. Okay. And if I put it that way, now people can kind of have that light bulb go off above their head and say, gosh, I don't know, maybe I should be a little bit more aggressive about paying a little more attention to this. Do you have to do everything that a YouTube creator says? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I would suggest putting your shit filter on most of the time and siphoning out most of the garbage that comes through social media. All right. But there are tidbits of really good information on social media, man. As long as you're prepared to, uh, articulate what it is going to be good for you and deploy what it is going to be good for you. Because, like I said, man, if you can do this thing on your own, all the power to you. All right. But I do want to welcome the subscribers to the channel. It's really good to have everybody. We'll bring Mariusz on. He's standing by backstage and see what's shaking, get his thoughts on the market and just his thoughts overall.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm awesome, man. Did you hear my opening? I became a millionaire this week and I didn't know it.
Oh, you did?
God's honest truth, man. Not,
Because of Aduro?
well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Well, markets have come off the bottom as a whole, but like I said, the single 2-day jump I've ever had in my career. I've had lots of four-figure investments in my career. I've had a few five-figure investments, but I have never in my lifetime had an investment like this. And that 2-day stretch last week, I mean, it was $165,000 stretch over a couple of days. That's some serious money. That's no joke. I think for the patrons making their way in here and for the folks that'll catch it overseas, and after the fact, I
But
think
it
that
also
people it
cuts on the way down.
what's that?
It also cuts on the way down.
It cuts, yeah,
You're
no,
gonna have
yeah,
you're gonna have weeks and days that you lose more money than you ever did.
and that's the funny thing, right? We come on and we report on this. I've been in the stock 3 years. You've been in the stock a little bit longer, the best I can tell, a little bit longer than myself, but,
Well,
we went
you
through
came on when 2023.
it was 20, yeah, was it 23 or 22?
Well, I was
It was
22.
the year of the it was the year of the Shell Game Changer
I mean, you were just
inclusion.
not too far behind me.
No, I don't think so. I was a week before the Shell Game Changer news, and then the Shell Game Changer news broke, and then I was kind of panicked a little bit to get into the stock because I was sold with just a few tidbits of information that you had sent me on the onset. I stayed up most of that first night just doing my due diligence on the third, but the little bit of information we had on the onset. Now the information has grown 50-fold since then. I mean, this is serious shit now. I mean, the validation has just gone way beyond what I saw with the bench scale when Anil walked me through the lab and showed me where the batch reactor, where kind of everything started, where they were running
Yeah, yeah,
samples through there. Just really cool to see that inception, and Jesus Christ, where they are now.
yeah.
It's
But
insane.
one thing is that you always give back the appreciation for being introduced to Aduro. But I want to give you kudos for um, having an open mind, because I have contacted so many influencers, so many YouTubers,
Yeah.
told them about Aduro, and even now they refuse to look at it, and that hurts people that follow them, because they become gatekeepers, right? But you were open-minded.
I think it speaks to their motives, right? Um, There was very little hesitation for me on this story. And for the myriad of people that heard my message and got involved in Aduro, maybe it was 1,000 shares. Hell, I don't know. Oh, that's a positive step to that. And the last thing, either me or you, I've known you a while. The last thing I want to do is something come out of my mouth that hurts somebody. Honestly, I don't want to hurt anybody. And for some reason, the money topic, you could cut somebody's arm deep and they'd be okay with it. But with the money topic, they're happy if you can give them something that can make them money. But by God, if you lose them $5 or $6, I mean, I've got folks coming down to the story saying, God, Ryan, can we buy the stock at $8? Can we buy the stock at $8? And it's like, boy, oh boy, that's a really interesting question. Now, yes, the answer is yes, but
Depending on your time frame, right?
yeah, I mean, the perspective over this is just we're in the first inning of a multi-year game with Aduro, multi-year.
Yeah.
I think the next, when NGP comes online and we start to get a few of the initial dominoes to fall with customer partnerships, I think that's going to be a real tell, and I've pressed, having Aduro sport some top line. I don't care about the bottom line. I do care about sporting some top line, and whether that's substantial to move the stock is obviously not critical, right? I mean, our comparative analysis over the last 3 years has had many stocks in the arena that all sport some form or fashion of paralysis, which is a very, very tough economically a viable system to deploy and expect that the economics of it are going to match up. They put red bows on it. They sell it in one way. Hey, we're going to do this. Ours is unique in this way. It all comes down to economics. And that's where I think a lot of people on the last panel that we had where Yazan came on and explained just a very large angle of the economics of Aduro. I'm not really sure institutions understand quite yet. I think the research is being done. I think the stock bump in the price has actually has come to fruition based on a couple of fairly reputable investing groups that have got a hold of the stock, and this is a small indication of how quickly this stock can move with the share float that exists. If you just put a little bit of upward pressure on the stock, there's 19 million shares in the float. It doesn't take very much to put some press on it, right? Now, my interest, and you mentioned maybe a digression in the stock or whatever. Let's say it comes off a couple of bucks. I think that could be the best thing that happens for the stock, because what I'm afraid of it happening is it boost into 12, and we've got a bunch of retail investors that jump ship. And you know who's going to be there to pick up their shares? The institutions. Okay. Because if they're astute and they're paying attention right now, they're looking at this stock and saying, my goodness, I mean, we did have an initial uplisting opportunity to the NASDAQ at around $4. We may have missed this name, so they're going to be looking at those digressions to add to those base positions. And, right now, the institutional interest, I really think they're standing on the sidelining and they're waiting for those few specific metrics, both market cap and earnings. I mean, it has to be something, right? Unless there's been some spurred buying in the last couple of months that we don't know about that's hit the ledger, it's only safe to presume that they're waiting for
I mean,
what?
depends on who, right? Because
Yeah,
you have different institutions with different likings and profiles of what they want.
correct.
You have institutions that invest in early stage companies. You have institutions that want to be involved in green investing. So
Yeah,
again, like, I mean, I've heard this argument from the beginning. Oh,
yeah.
I have time. The earnings revenues are far away, and here we are, so much higher, right? And
There's nobody on this earth that would have called the action over especially last week and the week before. Let's just chalk it up as the entire month of May Nobody, myself or you included, would have called the double in the price. Nobody.
No,
It
but it just like to your point,
You had to
you're
be in it.
talking about the tight float, but we've been saying from the beginning, when this opportunity is introduced to a wider audience,
Yep.
there's going to be Mariuszas, there's going to be Ryans out there from that audience, and there's not a lot of shares available. And that's really the first time that this happened.
Yep. Yep.
And this now feels like it's just caught fire on its own. You see so many
Yes.
accounts now
Yeah.
mentioning the name, and then
Organic momentum.
organic, more accounts are going to find out, and
Yep.
it's just going to grow from here. And also, of course, institutions are getting introduced to this name, and
Yep.
as we approach $500 million market cap mark, that opens up the door for more institutions again.
Correct. For thresholds of entry for mutual funds and things that fit that criteria, because people just don't understand right now. We're still just over 200 million market cap. I don't know what the new stock traded, what, 815 today, US, of course. Just over 200 million market cap, 210 maybe.
Yeah.
That disconnect is
Yeah.
still very, very real.
Yeah. And then depending on how you look at it, if you're solely in the micro cap space, small cap space, yeah, you might be like, oh, this is expensive. But when you're looking at from the lens of people that are used to investing in multi-billion-dollar companies, no,
Yeah.
they're looking at it in a different way. They're looking at it, how big is the addressable market? And there's plenty of companies out there that use
Yeah.
that. Oh, the addressable market is this. If we can get 1%, we're going to be worth this much. Well, that's when the work comes in. You have your addressable market. Who is out there addressing that addressable market? Well, in our case, nobody really. And how does our solution compare to everyone else's? And once you do that work, which takes time, then
Yeah, it
you
does.
most likely are going to come to the conclusion that there's something here, and you are more willing to kind of forget about the today and look at
Yeah.
like where is it going to be 5-10 years from now. Because if you think that they're going to be worth $10 billion down the road, what
Hmm.
is paying 500 million or a billion too much today? Well,
Right.
I mean, it just depends, right? It depends on individuals' preferences, and then you put this idea in front of enough individuals like this, and you will find the equilibrium price.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I will ask you something that we've talked about before on the potential for acquisition. Do you believe that that potential has decreased, maybe increased, or kind of stayed the same for somebody just swooping in here and not letting this valuation get our market cap get so far ahead of the opportunity to maybe, uh, uh, offer a $750 million bill or even $1 billion offer, which I think is 1/10 of where it is going to be, right? But we're there now. I don't know if it's become more of a reality or if it's actually digressed a little bit. And I don't know where management's allegiance lies. I don't know what direction that they would go in if they were proposed and they said, look, we're going to give you $800 million to buy the technology outright right now. I don't know what they would do. I don't know. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I don't know either, but I don't. The industry and the professional space seem to be very focused on that pilot and the demo, right? Like they're not going to do anything until they see that. So I think
I
that
agree.
and we've seen this on social media. Oh, you don't even have a pilot, therefore it means nothing. Well, okay, that's fine. We've heard that for 500% ago already. So okay, we'll get you the pilot, and then you'll pay triple, double the price.
I I hear I see the same arguments. The phase that Aduro is in their business evolution, it's like suggesting that they need to be in. Why aren't they in the sixth inning? And just like I said, they're in the first inning. Furthermore, the deeper thought to that evaluation, and I know Pure Cycle gets thrown into the comparative, right? Me and you can agree, unlike folks that don't want to speak about any other company out there that exists outside of Pure Cycle's bubble. I'd like to see Pure Cycle succeed. I really would. But there are very specific reasons as to why I think that is a flawed approach to throwing $600 million at the production of a plant in one location, right? Where Aduro can take their solution out to the masses. Now, this is not my idea. The management has spoken about the modularity and being able to go into strategic and isolated locations in, let's say, Mexico, right? We know that those discussions have happened. We know that we can start the modularity in a remote location somewhere in Europe. Now, the beauty in that is that they say, okay, look, we need X number of tons of processing capacity per year. The idea that they start out with it and can add to it from a modular perspective just means the world to me.
Yeah, kind of like the nuclear module reactors.
100%.
And look how they caught on fire. Because again, everything is always 3 inches in front of people's face. That's it. And Kathy Wood, invested in what is Oslo, and now nuclear is the thing. But also AI, right? We all hear about AI. We see it every day. And then we need something to power AI, so they can connect the dots. And so when the sector gets hot like this, you see those module nuclear companies, no revenue in sight, but have promising technologies and trading for billions of dollars. Billions. Not hundreds of millions, but billions. And I see this no different for Aduro. It's just,
I don't either.
We don't have that aha moment where everybody is talking about it.
Not yet.
Not yet, but yeah, it's going to come. And we kind of had a preview. We had a preview because Aduro was introduced to a couple investment groups, and they went wild, crazy over it. I mean, I saw comments like, "Oh my God, I am so in love with this company." Yeah, that's what we've been talking about it. You put it in front of the right audiences. How can you not love this company? I mean, when you're talking about like tobacco companies or whatever, you can have certain, well, I don't want to invest in this because of, it kills people, it gives them cancer. Sure. I mean, what about this? Like it makes money, it solves a huge problem, it saves the planet, and you can make a ton of money. Like who doesn't like it? Only people that, again, 3 inches in front of their face. Oh, it doesn't have revenues, it doesn't have EBITDA. Well, not everything has to have revenues and EBITDA to be profitable. It's all about the future cash flows and what you think they're going to be discounted to presence, and everything has value.
Yeah, everything is in the Deep Orwell report. On the 2 different metrics that are used to ascertain valuation now, because somebody could look at it and say, Jesus, $50. I didn't even have a $50 target. I've got it going over.
We were all surprised to see that, right?
That's a pretty interesting move from a very reputable coverage house, because what benefit do they have in that, in putting that out, if they think that they don't have a good set of metrics to assign to it? In other words, why take the risk? You're putting your name on the top of that letterhead, and you're putting your reputation out there. So when people look at it now and they say, come on, Aduro's trading at the time of $4 a share, and you put a $50 price target on it, it's as if people almost root against it, because nobody's that arrogant. Who the F does that, and we want to root against it. And we kind of move away from the whole, like, hey, it's intended for good things. I'm of the camp that Teslas are bad for the environment. And I know a lot of people who feel the same as me.
Well,
But
somehow you have to get the electricity from.
exactly,
Just because you don't see it 3 inches in front of your eyes, but yeah, it's pollutive
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I
Electricity is
mean,
not free.
yeah, it's just, I mean, one of the most transformational companies that I have seen in my lifetime, and this is just my opinion, is Apple Computers. I could also make the same argument that Apple Computers or Apple iPhones in the hands of our youth are killing our youth. I mean, is it healthy? I haven't heard anybody out there, arguing that the iPhones in the hands of our youth, babysitting, you know, is
Yeah.
good for our youth. But I don't know. I think we will have a momentum because the very essence of what we're talking about, i.e., Aduro, has got the goods. Okay, they've got the goods. And I spoke about this on, I think, the panel that we had. I watched the GameStop debacle. I've watched stocks go up for the wrong reasons my whole life. I've been doing this ever since I can remember. I love stock market investing, and it is far from perfect. It is absolutely more accurate to suggest that the stock market is imperfect. And I think Penny put it the right way. She said, I'm not interested in stocks that are fairly valued. I'm interested in stocks that are, disconnected from reality. And, I even think now at $8, this stock is certainly really disconnected and it's got some room. I really think it could gap up to the 500 mark. And I think if it were going to sit
500
there for a
million, you mean?
while, I do.
500
Yeah,
million?
500 million.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Easy. Easy. I mean, the stock just gapped up, and doubled 100% over what was the course of a few days. Um, and when that activity happens, I think people have a hard time not living in the present. It's nice when you've owned the stock for as long as we have. We look at it and say, okay, well, that day we had, or that stretch of 2 or 3 months where the stock didn't move, you know, because I've covered the stock every single day since I've owned it for 3 years. That's a fact. I'm
Hmm.
just interested in the game. That's what
Right,
I do.
right, right.
Um, but I remember, OTC. I remember all the OTC days. It would go up 1 cent and go down three. It'd go up six and go down four, and then it'd go down three, and then it'd go down two, and then it would go up one, and go up one, and go up two, and down five. And after 3 months, the stock hasn't moved. It's $1.11. You remember those days. I remember
Well,
one
but
day it hit the,
this is a perfect stock for what Charlie Munger used to say. The big money is made by sitting on your ass and doing nothing. And nowadays it's tough because you constantly want to have your
it's a
money
good point.
working for you, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you are constantly uh, bombarded with
Yeah.
a new girlfriend all
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
right? Oh,
Yeah.
this one is better. This one is going to move. So we don't have this. Well, we never really had it, but now it's even worse.
Yeah.
That I mean, what's the average holding period of a stock? Like maybe few months?
It's got to be. It can't
Yeah.
be. It can't be 12 months. I wouldn't
Right.
give that much credit to retail investors.
Right.
No way.
So really, the
Sorry.
hardest
Sorry.
part, uh, I mean, we all want 10 beggars, right? But 10 beggars take a lot of time, most of the time. I mean, yeah, you can get a lucky with a 10 beggar that happens fast,
Yeah.
but it takes a lot of time, and you have to kind of sit on it and ignore all the temptations. I mean, I can have a new investment idea every day. I can tell you about, oh, this 10x, this 10x, that 10x. Well, but if you just jump ship from one 10x to another, you're not going to ever have a 10x,
No.
right? It's like what Warren Buffett said. You can't create a baby in 2 weeks by getting 9 women pregnant at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And this is a perfect situation. Like, you know, your Aduro position, my Aduro position, they're significant. They're significant to our overall
Big
portfolio,
time. Big
and
time.
it's gotten there. Well, we both started with a smaller position, of course, and
Yeah.
then you kind of, as they execute, you build conviction,
Yeah.
you add more. But
On the dips. Yeah.
we made money not by trading, but by
No.
sitting and just watching.
100%.
And this is the hardest thing to do. And the risk
I
that I
agree.
see for myself is that when the position continues to get bigger and bigger, the temptation to take it off the table, to take some of the table, which, of course I will take some of the table, but
Yeah.
sell too much too early and
Yeah.
leave too much on the table.
Yeah. No, I agree. That it's a good problem to have, I guess. Um, I would like to think that we live in an environment here where you talk about information, yes, potentially being that detriment. I'd like to look at the other side of the coin and say it's by nature of the information that we can do such due diligence and deep. I mean, we communicate almost daily with updates as they come through real time. I've spoken with the CEO of the company, and I pose it to the group. What are the stocks that you own where you've talked to half of, or if not all of the upper management? I'm sure you've
Right.
talked to everybody.
Yeah.
There's a few with upper that I have not spoken with, but that's a real rarity for me, and it's really one of my bullish convictions on Aduro Clean Technologies. There's just something different about this management group. I, can you double down with me on that?
Mhm.
It's just different.
I
Um,
don't, I
I-
don't, I don't even really talk to them that much.
yeah,
They
I mean, I
just
have.
do. They just execute.
Well, they've been kind of the last
Yeah.
4 or 5 months, at least in 2025. I think they're ripping right now.
Mhm.
I think they're ripping busy. I really do.
Yeah.
The timing of it right now is to press, and I think Ofer and the team are pressing. That's just my presumption. I could be hell, they could be all on vacation. I don't think that's the case. I think it's the opposite. I think they're crushing right now. I think they know how big this is. And I get a sense that they also understand how big of a responsibility they have to roll this thing out correctly. Imagine holding that, you know, the greatest invention over the last 100 years. That
Yeah.
I've said that, and it is.
Yeah.
If it materializes to take waste plastic and turn it into a usable product, that is Nobel
I
Peace
mean,
Prize
that's
winning.
like that's like investing in Tesla at the beginning, right? Like, I mean, it's just
Maybe bigger,
life changing.
maybe bigger,
Like,
because Tesla is a discretionary item.
yeah,
Okay.
this is business to business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
business to business, it works differently. You know.
Yeah. And that's what I'm waiting for. I don't give a shit if I have to wait another year, two,
Yeah.
5. I don't care. It's when I can come onto YouTube and I can convey that this piece of plastic was made from the oil that was generated from the reactor system with the hydrochemolytic technology assigned to it, and this is the tangible product that comes
Yeah.
from it. It is
Yeah.
possible to take trash and turn it into treasure.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, Mariusz. When I went up and looked at R2, I saw what they were doing, but that was fairly clean. It was clean that they were running through to reduce it to the usable oil, and then of course they know that they can sell the oil that can be either augmented through the process and upscaled, which Anil kept pinging
Yeah.
on that. He was like, Ryan, you got to understand this, man. This is the key with Aduro. It's the ability to take material and then upsell it. You know,
I mean, this is the bitumen upgrading,
yeah,
right? This is where
hmm
this whole thing started. They were working
yep,
on oil upgrading,
yeah,
and that's when they discovered that this can be used for plastic, and plastic is hot and sexy, and upgrading bitumen, it's not sexy, it's dirty, but that vertical is also very big.
Huge.
Yeah.
And
So you see, this is like when you were mentioning Pure Cycle, they had somebody published a report on Pure Cycle, and I read the whole report. It was a good report. The problem is that these people think that they have no competition. They think that they have this wonderful technology because they have a commercial unit. Well, okay, and no mention of Aduro, but even with the information that they provided, they're all excited about the upside potential with just addressing one plastic type. I think it was number 5, plastic
yeah,
type
it's
number
five.
5.
Mhm.
That's all, just that. And they're talking, tens of billions of dollars of market cap. I mean, we can address all of those plastic types, and oil upgrading, and renewable oils. Like, so
Yeah.
if they think their upside is 10, 20 billion, well, then ours should be like 200 billion or something.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, it doesn't matter to me that we don't have a commercial unit yet, because what would I, if I look at it, kind of like when you look at Tesla and then the other auto manufacturers. I mean, Tesla was valued more than all of them, and it wasn't even close to producing as many cars as,
Correct.
I don't know if it's Toyota or Honda, but that's the point. It's about what people envision in the future. So if I am going to bet on which one do I want to have? A successful commercial unit that can address one plastic type, and I can see it in front of my face, 3 inches in front of my face, or a successful commercial unit that can address all the plastic types that nobody else can touch. And then I have 2 other verticals. Like I would have to be an imbecile to want one versus the other, unless of course I don't believe that Aduro's technology can be commercialized. So if you think that it can't, then it absolutely makes more sense to want to have that commercial unit, even for a small portion. But that's where it comes in. Roll up your sleeves, study, and determine what the probability is of them actually achieving that commercial success. And some people don't want to do that. And the person that I'm going to be referring to refuses to pick up the phone, call Aduro, and learn. He already knows by looking at social media, he already knows it doesn't work, don't have the pilot, I'm not going to pick up the phone. Very expensive refusal to pick up the phone, because now the stock more than doubled and he still won't pick up the phone, right? Very expensive to be stubborn.
Where do I go with that? Okay, so I know the technology works, and the latest release, I think it's Delphi, right? That's doing the EPA acknowledged assessment of the hydrochemolytic and how its eligibility can score against green credits and all that. That's not to verify whether or not it works. That's to take a system that already works and score it out against a carbon credit program that is extremely attractive to institutions. Extremely attractive.
Well, I mean, look at Tesla. Look at Tesla. Tesla for a long time wouldn't have been profitable if it wasn't for selling carbon tax credits, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's
and
exactly
I
right.
think we're talking about. So let's think about the demo unit. I'm just going to round down the numbers. I think the demo unit is going to be 8,000, 8,000 tons per
Yeah,
year,
tons.
but
Yep.
because it's modular, they can just build it. But let's just call it 10,000 for simplicity. So
Correct.
you can, rule of thumb, the tax credits, I don't know, $100 per ton.
Mhm.
So if we take 10,000 units times 100, that's an extra $1 million
Mhm.
a year. That's like royalty. You don't have to do much for it, and that's just carbon tax credits. We're
I
not
don't know
talking
how
about
much they're
plastic tax
investing in
credits.
this
There's also a
report, but
plastic tax
yeah,
credits.
yeah, and I want the viewers to truly understand that from the onset, Aduro has been steadfast in ensuring that they have not built their business model based on that. It was music to
Right,
my
and
ears.
also,
They were like, "Sure,
how
if we
many
get the
times?
credits, great, but they'll get it. They're gonna get it,
Right,
and it's gonna
but
be."
also, how many times did Eric Appleman
Mhm.
talked about how this business model has to work at virgin plastic prices?
Yeah.
Right. So we're not including carbon tax credits. We're not including plastic tax credits. We're not
Nope.
including a premium pricing that recycled material gets. We
Exactly.
are talking about virgin plastic prices. That's not reality. We've heard it from Pure Cycle on the conference call. They are
That's all.
charging like
Mhm.
3 times the virgin
Mhm.
prices. So
Yep.
with Aduro being able to charge 3 times the virgin, it's insane. And not only this, uh, not only will they be able to charge higher prices, their input cost is going to
Mhm.
be less because they can go after
Yeah.
plastic that nobody else can touch.
So they say. I've heard management double down and triple down on this statement. Eric has been very steadfast on this, and when he's explaining it, I get the sense that he's being very close to the vest, and he gives you what you need to know to understand that Aduro stands alone in the contaminated plastic market. He's careful. He has to be careful, um, because to suggest, as Ofer elegantly did just a month or so ago on his interview, he said, "We don't worry about competition.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do that. There really isn't, because I think the business that Aduro is going to win, it's not going to be by nature of beating out competition. It's going to be striking a deal with their customers, as Eric has conveyed, going to the customer and say, let's start from scratch. What do you need? Aduro goes to the drawing board and says, here's what we can render and here's what we can do. And they come to the getter and they strike a deal. That's the way that's going to roll. It's not going to be a competition thing.
Right.
No way.
Right.
So, yeah.
And also, I mean, when the increase in the stock price happened, I saw some people confused. Was there any news? Well, you again, why do you need news? Like, why do you need news if you're severely undervalued? All you need is to show it to more people, and that's it. But talking about news, what happens if they get one of these multi-billion-dollar companies
Mm-hmm.
sign a commercial deal?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? I mean, we know that this Shell Game Changer program has been going on now for like 2 years, and they're still in the program. And the program is supposed to be to fail the technology. They
Mm-hmm.
they have failed to fail. This is what Eric Appleman said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they are, but what if
I
you get a piece of news that they passed this game changer program and Shell is moving to the next stage, whatever that might be?
Yeah,
I mean, this could ignite this thing like we've never seen before.
correct. I my interpretation's a little bit. So for sharing with the audience a little bit, I just want to share a little bit from my site visit up there. I know the fail to fail thing is something that Eric likes to talk about. And Neil explained this to me very, very clearly about Shell Game Changer program to even get into the program. you have to prove that you can meet their vetting standard. In other words, Anil told me that the vetting to get accepted to that was like impossible. So the fail to fail that I understand was on the onset. Okay. The Shell Game Changer program now, I think they've been going for 3 years, not 2.
Yeah, I kind
Since
of lost
that,
track. Yeah.
yep, it's okay. I mean, since the program and the last I had saw maybe in between phase 4 and 5 out of 6 total, right? I think something's different is going on with Shell in that at some point in that program, they're probably looking to exploit the technology for their benefit. In other words, I think it's the evaluation, the very evaluation that Shell is putting to rigor over Aduro to eventually put them into operation. They don't devote manpower. They do not devote resources, all of which were declared right up front as being a condition of acceptance to the Game Changer program. We don't know those details, but
Right.
I can only safely presume, based on the forward facing facts, that being in this program, I think, has moved away from the fail to fail that Anil said is on the initial vetting. If the technology didn't work, those smart mother effers with Shell would have known right away. And we wouldn't be talking about Aduro Clean Technologies. Why? Because they wouldn't have found their way in the door with, oh, by the way, one of the biggest petrochemical companies in the world. Okay. And I might just add domiciled in Europe, which is huge
Yeah.
because I think Europe is going to be the first break in for Aduro. But, you know, what can we do? I mean, we just have to continue to be patient on the progress. But if Aduro is as good as we think that it is, or know that it is, whatever, it's either going to be one set of impasses. It's going to be, we don't want to go in this direction, and the game changer dissolves away and it goes away. Okay. Leaves plenty of other options for Aduro. The other option is Shell allows for the non-disclosure to be dissolved and to announce the results of the Game Changer program. And to your point, I think that's going to be enormous validation. This is
Yeah.
not third-party
Yeah.
validation. This is scientists. These are the smartest people in the world working on this right now.
Yeah.
These are some smart cats. And to go through that rigor, I think they're setting up for an eventual incorporation in their business structure. That's what I think. They
Yeah.
have to.
But you know,
Mariusz, they have to.
yeah. But also, um,
They got to find something.
I mean, we hear all the time, oh, you know, if this technology was so good, why hasn't nobody like gone to the commercial unit yet? You have
No.
to also understand it from the point of view of these big companies. Well, first of all, they always move slow, but second of all, they have put hundreds of millions of dollars
Yep.
into other technologies and nothing to show for.
Shell
Nothing,
directly.
right? Nothing to show for. So, wouldn't you want to see a pilot this time before you commit hundreds of millions of dollars? Wouldn't you want to see a demo? Maybe that's
Maybe
what
it
they're
was their
waiting for.
idea.
But this is when I believe the floodgates will open, when they have the pilot first and then the demo, because then nobody will be able to deny it anymore. You have a freaking unit that generates
I
revenue.
agree.
This is what what the input costs are.
Yeah,
It's here's your
correct.
restaurant. Here's your restaurant, and you can now franchise it. It's so
Yeah, yeah,
really for the demo unit, for the pilot unit, which is still small in comparison to the demo unit.
sure.
We're looking September, end of September. That's what we were told. But for the demo unit, I believe it's 2026.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have 12 months. You have until 2026 to get as many shares as you possibly can in Aduro. After this, like all bets are off. Anything can go. Like if it goes to $1 billion valuation, 3 billion, 5 billion, anything is possible.
Yeah, yeah. This Kinger FD talks about, is there any details about the upkeep and maintenance for these machines? It's interesting that you mentioned that, man, because I talked about this with Anil when I was up there at the facility. Eric Appelman has spoke about the procurement of industrial grade equipment for these this equipment that's going to go into this plant. But I want to bring your attention to Delphi for the technology, Siemens for the automation, and Zeton for the plans. Okay. If you can show me those three levels of technical, professional expertise on getting this thing right when compared to Pure Cycle, remember all the problems when Pure Cycle just decided to get into the facility building business. It's something that I know a lot about. I've been doing it for 20 years. I used to inspect ExxonMobil. All right. So I know what goes and the complexities that go into those. Now, Pure Cycle just thought, this is great. We can just uproot this and we've got a few $100 million and it'll just run perfectly. Right. Is that what happened, Mariusz? No. Now, what I didn't hear about that is, where are the plans? Where are the expertise that go into that? Where is the pre-planning? Where are the industry experts that know how to do it before it is done, right? And that's where Aduro is right now. Okay. They've engaged on those three fronts with those major institutes. All you got to do is go to Aduro Clean Tech, read those press releases, and get into those plans specifically, because they're each handling a different niche. The only thing else I will mention on that front is that where they are domiciled right now in Canada is super difficult to procure industrial products. Anil did mention that. He said, if we were in the US, it'd be 10 times easier. If we were in Europe, it's 25 times easier, right? Because they're working off of a different approval series for their material: aluminum, valving, motors, pumps, extruders, all of the material that we know are going to be the components of this. Now, the aspect of the next generation process that is going to be the most complex is not going to be the mechanical machinery. It's going to be the electrical machinery that's attached to this doing the automation piece. Okay. Because you can imagine a plant that's running, and it starts to slip a little bit on its chemical, right? Those monitorings have to happen continuously, and the system has to be able to adjust on its own. That's where one of the biggest automation companies comes in. I knew how big that was with Siemens. It fell on deaf ears. The stock sure as shit didn't double because Siemens announced that they were involved with the Aduro Clean Technologies. That I can guarantee you. But for me, that's another feather in my cap. I was like, they're going about it the right way. So stand by for rolls. And all I can tell you is, with Zeton doing the plants, which the plans have been finalized for quite some many months. Okay. When the plans are rolled out with the expertise and the best work practices that will roll into this commercial plant, and then the automation input and putting the best technology into that, all I can say that I'm extremely encouraged to see what that final output is going to be when this NGP is rolled out to the grander audience. Aduro knows how big that rollout is. They have to put the pieces together, guys. Okay. I mean, me and Mariusz try to set the stones in place to try to, we don't want to be presumptuous with our discussion, but what we're talking about is known. You know what I mean? These little press releases as they come out, I think in the individual, they come out and the stock doesn't maybe move. And one of the press releases came out, the stock went down that day, which tells me it's either falling on deaf ears or it's being dismissed in the grander market. What is going to be the catalyst is when all of these things and initiatives that Aduro is telling you they're finding value in come to fruition on this final NGP. It's going to be an impressive unit, guys. Okay. It's going to be impressive because they've got those expertise entities. If it were just the 30 employees at Aduro building a commercial plant, yeah, I would be concerned. But my concern went to zero when those announcements were made public. Do you have any comment on that?
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know I'm right. I mean, just we need to see the physical validation. And like I said, I think you're forecasting a potential of 2026, right? But all of those learnings and incorporation are going to go into this
but
to
also
help
what,
mitigate the troubleshooting and problems that, are to be expected when you get into, commercial plant building and machinery of that magnitude. And, I know what you're talking about, maintenance of pipeline and all of that. You're going to have to keep, those parts and machines. These big companies know that. Okay. All they have to do is validate the technology, the heart of the unit. Buying extruders and pumps and motors, no problem. They'll stock the shelves with that shit. They will be redundant in their mechanical application. They will never miss a beat, and we will not suffer the downtime that Pure Cycle did. We won't. They're troubleshooting that stuff now, guys. That's amateur hour.
also up to this point, because we Aduro has very limited revenues, just from testing. This entire time, the company financed itself by accessing the market, and so because they built a shareholder base, because they satisfied the shareholder base. Every single raise was at a higher level.
Yeah.
But what's important about the demo unit is that the demo unit, you have to think of it as a commercial unit. It will be a unit that will generate revenues for Aduro. So 10,000 tons per year revenues, whatever you want to use, whether virgin pricing or more, but it's probably going to have revenues of about $10 million. That completely changes everything, because at that point, the company will no longer need to access the market.
Yes,
no
sir.
longer.
Yes, sir.
And
That's right.
you will also have, instead of projections on paper, you will have real economic data.
Correct.
And you know this, when you have a real economic data,
Yeah, you can assign
that
multiple.
it can be financeable. So
100%.
if the numbers look good, project financing will be available. And if the big boys don't want to commercialize this technology, no problem. Aduro can just build hundreds of units all over the world. They can all be financed with project financing, not even with equity, and
No.
and the game is over. So that's why this demo unit is so key, because right now, yes, if they only had the strategy of going the licensing model, then of course you rely on the Shells of the world, Totals of the world, which take time, and it might take forever, and it might never happen, right? That's the risk. But if you are taking your own path, your own units along this other path, then once you have your own unit, like, you guys don't ever need to commercialize it. You don't have to do a franchise model, royalty model. We'll just build our own units, just like Pure Cycle has its own unit.
Yeah.
But but I don't think that's going to happen. I think everybody will want to.
I do too.
Franchise it, as I like to call it, because it's a game
Yeah.
changer. But if they don't, we have another path.
Definitely appreciate your answers. I agree with what you're saying. Are they going to need a tech specialist to manage all those machines? 100%. Yeah, this is big industrial commercial application. What I will say is the photos that I saw of the Ironton facility, man, they went big with that facility. They went big. And I can't stress enough, I'm just doubling down on the forward information that I've reviewed with Aduro and their insistence on ensuring that would-be share owners and existing share owners understand how important the modularity aspect of their business model is. And I could not agree more. The way Aduro is building their business, Mariusz touched on one aspect of it, their ability to raise funding. which, Jesus Christ, I've covered thousands of stock in my life, and it is so frustrating to go from company to company to company. And yeah, for a while they raise some funds and boom, they're off and running. And something happens to where either they get overzealous, overconfident, or their business model falls the F apart and they're no good. Aduro, every single step of the way, has raised appropriate capital enough, and they only raise what they need, and they have rewarded shareholders in time, in due time, right? By promising a certain number of elements per year of deliverables. And what do, Mariusz? They deliver every single year. We've sat on the year-end fire chats every single year, and they're like, we said we were going to do this, 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 and this. And they come on in December or January of the following year, and we've done this, 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 and this. So,
I mean, to your point of modularity, it's important because it opens up the door for different clientele and different business units. I mean,
correct.
if you can build a
Correct.
smaller recycling unit, you can put
Ofer
a
said the same.
recycling unit next to
Correct.
a landfill,
Correct.
like next to multiple landfills. You can put a recycling unit next to a plastic factory that they're making pipes and they have
Correct.
leftovers.
Which
you can
they're
put it there. You know,
which
Think-
they're working with that company. You know, that's very real. The building supply.
Exactly. So it's almost like a what do you call these when the power goes out? When you
Transitional power.
like you can go and put gas in that and power your house. Like
a generator.
Generator, right? You think of it like smaller generators that can be put next to a factory, landfill.
Correct.
I mean, that companies like Pure Cycle can't do this because they only have this one unit, and then they have to feed it with plastic from everywhere else. Well, you can put it next to a facility that generates plastic waste.
So
then you have no transportation costs.
Transportation costs, Mariusz. What? Really?
You have no transportation costs.
Light bulb going off above my head. Interesting. I look at Pure Cycle. I'm not a genius. What I do have is common sense. And so when I look at the Pure Cycle, was one of the very initial onset evaluations that I made. Okay. Why Ironton? Well, Procter and Gamble is based in Ohio, right? But if they're going to be processing these, X number of tons per year, those tons have to come into the facility to one drop point from where? And in competition with who? And to what cost to these margins that they're all over the map with Pure Cycle. They do not take the time, and they refuse to answer the questions on the calls about the economics behind, what type of margins they're going to make, what the input costs are going to be. Eric Appelman talks about this all the time. Don't need input costs, don't need output costs, don't need after treatment, pre-treatment. Sorting is at a minimum. The hydrogen byproduct that we get can be put back in and off, burned off. The additives are at a minimum with Aduro. He goes right down the line from cradle to grave. Here's why it's economically feasible. And here's why the competition, we wonder why plastic has ended up in the landfills and oceans over this many years. And that's why. It's because it's not economically viable to subject plastic in a large amount to a process that's economically unfeasible. So they would rather just make it disappear. And that is the problem that we've had for ever since pyrolysis has been, the dominant solution to go to try to attempt to get a turn on this problem.
Yeah. Look, the bottom line is this. When they show that this thing works on a commercial scale, it's a rocket ship. It's just a rocket ship. And so when you get involved in a situation like this and you get a win like this can take care of a lot of sins.
Yeah.
A lot of other mistakes in your portfolio. Just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if you think about in the investing world, we always talk about portfolio diversification, this and diversification that, which is important. But the richest people in the world, they made their money on single investments.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
If you pay attention to the Warren Buffett story, Warren Buffett, when he very first started, was investing in shitty companies that were extremely undervalued, and he would hold them long enough to make money. Now, he was in a blue ocean by himself. Charlie Munger, once he met Warren Buffett many, many years later, introduced him more to the idea of buying companies that at a fair value, right? Great companies at a fair value and making money off of those. Warren Buffett didn't start in the game with that. If you read The Intelligent Investor, it alludes to that in The Intelligent Investor, that schools of thought would suggest that there is merit behind this. Okay. And the power in information is the key. I mean, if nothing else, if I'm a viewer and I come in and I throw out the numbers that I throw out, and I don't like to do that, but I do that to show that information was received, acted upon, and real tangible results were made. Okay. I'm not Jeremy. Okay. I don't have the charisma that Jeremy has. Okay. I can't entertain you the way that he has. I can't garner 50 to 100,000 views per video by just going on there and farting into the camera. I can't do that. Okay. What I can do is I can show you something that to the astute investor should be the most attractive. And that is less talk and more about what was the decision and what were the results that were rendered. Can it be duplicated? Were there pedigrees that we looked at with the Aduro story? We'll probably need to write books on this evolution. Okay. Because the value in what was assessed on the onset, we could probably get together and put our thumb on a few of those tangibles that we saw right away on the onset: management, TAM, uniqueness of opportunity with the technology, right? You talk about the problem solving, right? Does it solve a problem, right? What has been done in way of de-risking? When we were introduced to the story, I think you invested perhaps maybe before third-party validation. Is that right? After, right? So that was a big, sizable piece that was directed right at share owners to get that third-party validation when they came back and said, yeah, this is the real deal. It's crazy. This could change the world, right? But have those attributes changed 3 years removed? No, they haven't. They existed on the onset. And I think, it all took us a fairly short amount of time to get to a decision. And I know in hindsight, you look back and say, well, of course I'm right now because the stock is up. It's a convenient position to be in. I don't mean to suggest that at all. What I mean to say is that it is possible, to make a good assessment. I will say that it's rare, but it is possible to make a good assessment on a good company that has good fundamentals. Okay. Yeah. No earnings, and see that process through. And we're doing it, man. We're doing it right now. We're walking the road every single day, and I'm proud as hell. And I know I represent some people who own the stock in the sky. Won't know the full totality of it. Now, if the stock, lo and behold, went down, right, we would hear that shit, right? I made the mistake of going into the Voxter Yahoo thread today, and I was like, holy shit, I wish I hadn't have done that. Because I thought the video you released was out of really good faith. I did. That's just the impression I got. And I'm entitled to my opinion.
But you didn't get the impression on the Yahoo message board.
Holy shit. No. Yeah.
I never
no,
go there. I've never been to the Yahoo one.
Yeah. Don't go there. Don't go there. Well, you don't know where people are coming from.
Yeah,
but are you a loser and you come on and act like a loser? Well, then you're a loser.
Here's another point that I look at, especially the micro cap space, the small cap space. I like you're a matador fighting bulls. Okay, it's a totally different game than investing in the established Apples of the world, it's a totally different game. You're gonna
Night
get
and day.
night and
Night and
day.
day.
You're gonna get scratched. You're gonna get poked. You're gonna get punctured. Okay, and that's just the way it is. But now, just because you're gonna get hurt, you shouldn't take shots.
Well,
And also, what people don't understand, if it wasn't for Voxter, there would be no Aduro. Because of Voxter, I got introduced to a person that introduced
network.
me to Aduro.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for Voxter, there would be no Leaf Brands. There would be no Charbon. There would be none of that would be there. So, but the point is that if I take, I listened to this interview by someone that said the best stock pickers are right 55% of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
He's the Indian guy,
yeah,
right? The
and
professor.
I don't
Yeah,
know
he's really good.
who it is, but
I can't
like,
remember his name. He's phenomenal.
yeah. So as
Mhm,
a
mhm,
doctor,
mhm,
that would be
mhm.
a terrible,
Right, right.
right? But as
Mhm,
an investor, 55% of the time. So if I have a portfolio of 10 positions and I fail 4.5 times,
mhm,
but I succeed 5.5 times,
mhm.
and one of them is Aduro, that's it.
Game over.
That's it. Like, I can fail on 9 of them. If one of them is Aduro, I'm done.
Yeah. I watched the video today, and here's my opinion. Maybe you can appreciate this. Maybe you won't. Maybe the audience will be pissed at me for saying this, but I think you owe the audience nothing with regard to responsibility for people's decisions that they make. I don't. There's schools of thought that would say you have an inherent responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. The problem with that is, man, when you come on to a one-way sharing and conveyance of information, you do not know the people who are receiving that information and how either ill prepared or prepared they are to either even entertain taking a stab into, let's say, a speculative investment, or whether or not they are absolutely conditioned to receive that information, act upon it, and profit from it. And I just I don't look at the responsibility of a YouTube person as owing anybody anything, you specifically. Um, and I watched that video, and I thought you did go overboard a little bit in saying, "Hey, man, I care about you. You know, I'm going to continue to do this because I think there's people out there that can appreciate the information." And that is true. There's probably people out there that expected you to say, "Fuck it, I'm selling everything," you know. But there was a few comments that said, "Yeah, man, I appreciate you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take the same philosophy and continue to hold." Shit, they
Well,
made it. They made $8 million.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean,
they're
the
not
thing
making
is,
zero.
yeah, the thing is that, it's an investment that has been a disaster. Pretty much
Yeah, sure,
went
sure.
down
You said that.
100%.
Sure.
And somebody told me that I should, come out and say, just, I'm done. There, you don't have to blame them, but just move on. And
Yeah,
I'm thinking, and I said to this person, look, I'm already an idiot for being involved in this
yeah,
position.
yeah,
If
yeah.
I
Understood.
bail out now and this thing turns around, I'm going to be double idiot. Okay? I prefer to be a single idiot. And if it goes completely to zero, I'm already an idiot. So I'm going to stay an idiot. But if it turns around, I'm going to be less of an idiot and more of a hero. So
Yeah,
it's an easy choice for me. It's like, it's pointless to sell. I'm going to continue providing information. I already lost more money than all the people that watch. Guarantee you that. And also, it's so easy on social media to throw and point fingers, right? And I operate in the riskiest space there is, right? So next
yeah.
time you point a finger, put yourself in my shoes for one day and you won't survive, because
Look at
I
the
am the one that
yeah,
the stones are getting thrown at. I am the one that
Yeah, you get some stones.
People make
You, yeah.
X accounts with my name and all that. I am the one. So
I know.
if you can survive in my shoes for a week, then you can talk. And if you can't, stay on the sidelines. You can watch the bullfight, but I'm in the ring. You're in the stands. So before you open your mouth, just know your position. And if you want to come and be in my shoes, then do what I do. Come out, start a YouTube channel, put yourself out there, talk about the companies. And then some of those companies are going to stab you in the back. Some of those companies are not going to perform. Some of those investments are going to fail. And you're going to get what I'm getting. And if you can take it, then you will graduate from the microcap university. Until then, stay in your lane.
This is funny. Frank said, I don't know who this is directed to. Let's say you take 50%
this is
of
the
this
guy. This is the guy that this is actually the guy.
He's your buddy. He's your buddy.
Yeah, he keeps yapping and yapping. And
okay,
if you want to keep yapping, do what I do. Or why don't you say, how come you didn't invest in Aduro? Where's your Aduro position?
He's off already. Unfollow. Why listen to you at all?
Exactly.
All right, I'll take a stab at this because this is kind of funny. Look, I don't come onto social media to prove myself to anybody. Okay, I started YouTube 10 years ago when there was nobody doing personal finance YouTube. Nobody. All right, Jeremy had started just shortly, but before me, Ryan Scribner started after me, and took amazing success. And I truly did start YouTube 10 years ago to bring awareness to personal finance for people. Why? Because the majority of people, and I'm not suggesting this is you, Frank, you could be an awesome person, okay? What I'm saying is the masses out there are a complete disaster when it comes to personal finance and awareness. And you don't even have to start with the stock market. Let's just shelf that for a moment and talk about personal household debt of an unsecured nature. It's $15,000 per household on an average in the United States of America, the richest country in the world. I don't know where you're domiciled, all right? But I had an inherent motivation to come on and teach people about how they can stop spending like an asshole. You can start right there. Stop spending like an asshole, okay? Because your later self in life will look back and you'll have less of an opportunity for regret later on down the line, okay? With regard to personal finance, and you say, well, you're 100% wrong. I like when people in my work, when they talk in 100% definitives, are usually the ones who are 100% wrong. Okay. So I find that comment interesting, but I will just say this. I started YouTube. My portfolio was $78,000. I just declared that last week I hit the $1 million mark for the first time in my life. I am 47. Now, if you can suggest that everybody in their blue mother, okay, under the great sun, makes millionaire status before 50, or at any time during their life, then I'll eat crow. But we both know that that's not the fact. The fact of the matter is that most people struggle to get ahead, and they do so by their own admission. They do so because of their own deficiencies. And it's comments like that right there that actually lend itself to not being open to new ideas. Now, I'm not trying to sell you. Hell, I don't even want you on my channel. I've said that many, many times. I don't want people like you getting a hold of my information, because the smart ones will get a hold of my information and say, hold on a second, this guy 10x'd his money in 10 years. I want to do that too. Let me break myself down, right? And get the shit out of my ear, maybe the shit being what I thought I knew about life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and listen to a guy that's actually sharing the reality of it. Now, you might come over the top and say, you're lying, Ryan. You're not a millionaire. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's all fair in love and war, right? I'm a truthful guy. That exactly did happen. I've got my portfolio to share. I'm at 958,000 and change in total portfolio value, but there are aspects of my portfolio with regard to dividend investing that I've been investing in for multiple years. Those are sacred to me. I don't touch them. I'm a big S&P investor. That has crushed over the years. It has incrementally allowed me to enjoy compounding interest. And if you don't know what Warren Buffett says about compounding interest, I suggest you do a little bit of research yourself instead of coming on and bashing somebody that you don't know, who's actually a 20-year veteran. See, you don't even know me, right? So you bash me and you say, you shouldn't listen to this guy. Well, people listen to me as a professional every single day at work because I'm an expert in what I do, right? But you just look at it like a funny guy with a Nike shirt, every Friday that comes on and talks about stocks that by your assessment, I'm 100% wrong in. Yeah, I think that's a shallow interpretation of the message. And I think it's unfortunate that people like you can't see, you know, in front of your face, but a couple of feet. And I wish you all the best. I think, the unfortunate part about life is people like you who probably don't deserve one iota of success will unfortunately maybe trip and fall into some success. I would venture to guess that you're probably a subject of your own failures, to be honest with you. And, either one of those are true. And I'll let you kick with that because I know I'm happy. Mariusz, are you doing okay? I don't have to do this. you know, it's
Am I doing okay with what?
just life and in general and your investments. I mean, last week had to have been interesting to see some validation over the stock, and you wouldn't have had that unless you took the position in the stock. So, were you wrong? I would suggest maybe you were right, not 100% wrong. So I don't get the analogy, right? Um, And I think what people miss too is, look, if you don't have the ability to hold stock long term, that you're probably not going to realize the maximum profits. I've already had people come into the message and say, Jesus, Ryan, I bought the stock at, on the IPO at $4 and, I sold at 6.50 or $7. I almost doubled my money. And now I'm like, oh, holy shit, it's run up beyond my sell price. Now, what do I do, Ryan? Well, I don't have a DeLorean. Okay.
You see the comment that you made about it cuts both ways, because you have to hold them for a long time to make serious money, but also the ones that you hold for a long time and they disappoint, that's when you lose a lot of money. And that's the example. I have the ability to hold my stocks for a long time, but that cut me on Voxtra.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when the companies deliver, you make the gain. When they don't, you pay the price.
That's exactly correct. Yep. 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 I don't know. If I was going to be fair, I've covered, there's a lot of stocks you cover. I like some of them. Some of them are kind of, the verdict is out for me. One in particular, it was the best stock that you've covered. And I covered them for a short time. It was HS GovTech at the time. And have you ever got an email saying you were right on that? I'll bet you haven't. Not one.
Mm-mm.
You were dead right. Dead right.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I had
Ali is on the board of
I had a
directors with
situation
Paralock.
once. I had a situation once where, the stock pretty much went to zero. I sold before that, but then after it went to zero because it went bankrupt. But then in the bankruptcy court, the assets sold for 400 million.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody came in and
And
swooped
so I was right on
it
the
up.
asset, but I wasn't right on the stock because they ran out of time.
Yep.
And the
Exactly.
lenders took it, So
yeah.
you if you're in this space, small cap space, there's no way you can avoid it without having blowups. No way.
Yeah.
There is going to be
Yeah.
more in the future. So if you're looking for more blowups, please sign up for Microcap Explosions. I promise you, we'll deliver you some in the future.
There's no doubt about it, man.
Yeah.
I've declared many times, man, when we've done this before, we've done this a few times, and I think we've got an interview coming up. I think you're going to probably dig a little bit deeper, and I'll provide that link through the channel. You guys are going to want to stay tuned to that and help Mariusz support that. And I'm glad to do it. I've done it before. My investing journey is actually pretty interesting. Really
So
is.
tomorrow,
And yep,
Ryan and I are going to do an interview
yep,
on my channel that I'm turning into a podcast.
yep,
But it's not going to be published tomorrow. We're just going to record it tomorrow. I'm not sure
yep.
when I'm going to publish it, but it's going to be about Ryan's story.
Stay tuned, man. It's gonna be cool. I'm gonna dig it. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. But yeah, you ready to sign off?
Yeah,
I'll go a
yeah.
little bit longer tonight, but I
Yeah.
don't want to keep you for more.
Yeah.
You've been on for an hour and a half, so
All
I
right.
could talk
See you
smoke all
guys.
night, man. But I'll let you go, buddy. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Mariusz. Very good, man. So appreciate the gallery coming in. This is like the old school. I used to do this for 2 hours every single Friday and never missed. I do miss those days. I really do. But I digressed on the additional time just because, I really wasn't seeing any compensation for my time. And anymore, my time's valuable. I do drop those nuggets of insight for you to benefit from. And I'll do that now, actually. Minute 25, I'll jump into my personal portfolio and I'll show you what 100% failure looks like, because I'm kind of curious to see what that looks like too. So 100% failure. Here we've got the Aduro position and some plurilock in here. It jumped over the last week or so by the tune of 30 grand. Yep, it's total failure on that, approaching 100,000 on the joint brokerage account. Roth one. Now, remind you, this is one of the pedigree that I share on the channel that I expect every patron to the message who hasn't unsubscribed from the message to understand the benefit of the Roth IRA, and that every single $192,192 of this Roth one, I have two. Wait till you see the second one. It's even more of a failure than the first one. It's incredible. Big position in the S&P 500 in here. Nice position in Aduro, 12,500 shares in there. I got a big position in Costco, Visa. I added Amgen this week. That's up. That's a total failure as well. Nvidia, we're up. JP Morgan owned it a while. Shifted the Altria group from the dividend portfolio into a 100-share position, so I can potentially maybe sell some calls against it. Okay. Make a little income there. And then Microsoft and the same thing, 100 shares of T. As a matter of fact, 150 shares. I'm up in all of those right now. So again, a pretty good example of some Dow components there that are complete and utter failures, right? So if you look at this and you just disagree that VOO at their expense ratio housed in a self-directed Roth IRA account is the wrong way to go, please, I would invite you to unfollow my channel, because I'm one of those guys that don't give a shit at all. I don't care. All right. You don't want to benefit from this information, you can get lost. It's awesome. And I'm glad to see you go. This is Roth 2. I promised that it was even more of a failure than the first. 221,768. So for you guys that do follow me, you can see that this took a $50,000 jump in 2 weeks. So yeah, if it was more than what you make in a year, I'm sorry. I really do. But that's what it is. I've worked since I was 15 years old. I'm 47 now, at having the psychology enough to separate my business thesis over my investments from my money. And I would wish that upon anybody. It's shallow comments that I love to respond with my sharp tongue, because I usually take comments like that and wipe them through the mud for about a half hour. So, and that's what I intend on doing. I'm having some fun right now. Absolutely. Uh, British Tobacco, European counterpart, good dividend payer, 100 shares there. Cummins, an absolute failure of a company. United Health actually reported the stock fell big time. I went ahead and took the inject at 300. Will it digress below 300? I don't know. But the haircut on UNH trading at 8 times forward earnings was a good enough opportunity for me to take a stab at UNH. And then Goldman Sachs, a really, really small regional bank that is probably going to fail. So I do apologize for recommending Goldman Sachs. Nobody's ever heard of it before. They're really, really tiny. So, but it fits well in this portfolio. It's done quite well for me. We'll move on to the sector ETF portfolio. Again, another strategy that I recommend on the channel that's completely failed. I started this March of 2019, so we're just over 5 years removed of building this up from $1,500, right? And it's completely failed its way to $36,905, right? So this is the sector ETF strategy here. Yeah. This is the dividend portfolio. Investing in dividends is a very, very unknown and unprofitable way to seek out profits in the stock market. There's so many more productive ways of making money in this life that don't involve investing in dividend, because it's like gambling and it's super risky. But I do want to just share with you guys what we're looking at. I did fall back to 48 holdings in the dividend portfolio. All right. But as they're going along, Lockheed is my biggest position. Cisco, McDonald's, Bristol Myers, Sanofi, Johnson & Johnson, Enbridge, Verizon, Chevron, Merck, Home Depot, Canadian Mutual, Energy Transfer, Comcast, Duke, TD, PG. So I almost got through them all. But all really, really, really terrible companies there. Most of them are in the green, so I do apologize for that. Perhaps maybe I could recommend a channel with, 1 million subscribers out there. You could tune into them and lose your ass, and then you'll be happy. And then you can actually make comments that you're really pissed, right? Because they're 100% failure rate on you. But yeah, there's Total, General Dynamics, and then Raytheon Technologies. HSBC is a screaming buy right now. It's done quite well for me. This is the top end of the portfolio. $51,000 in this small element of the portfolio, which has completely failed in growing wealth for me over time. I'm a young whippersnapper at 47. I have 47 people in the live stream tonight. So, it's good. It matches up. This is the bottom tier of the portfolio here. So, for somebody to come on and declare actually some options in the stock market, for somebody who doesn't know about stock market awareness, what they can do is look at how it is that I break up the world, right? This is 48 holdings. This is not tax protected. There's $30,262 in the bottom end of this. Pepsi, Bank of Nova Scotia, Tatmos and Coors, Southern Company, USB, Abbott Laboratories, New Stock, Valero, Morgan Stanley, Medtronic, Suncor, BHP Billiton, Shell, Gilead, Citigroup, Oran, Albertsons, ExxonMobil, Mondelez, AbbVie, Coke, and Imperial Oil in Canada, which is throwing off a phenomenal dividend. Anything with Canada attached to it right now is crushing. Anything. Canadian banks, TD, Bank of Nova Scotia, kicking some ass. Royal Bank of Canada, I own all three. They're really terrible. And I would definitely put that under the envelope of failing 100% of the time in the investments, because they're all up. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just let you chew on that for a bit. All right. You're correct. It made absolutely no sense, but my dry humor just can't help myself but to point out the idiocracy. The growth portfolio, again, some stocks that a lot of people have not heard about. I apologize for the Apple ticker symbol. I would unsubscribe because the ticker symbol is AAPL. I apologize. I mistyped that. Meta, Amazon, Google, I've got about a $5,000 position in, 30 shares of Google in this. So this is about half the portfolio. A share of CrowdStrike, Adobe, Salesforce, which blew the numbers out, great quarter, and Chipotle Mexican Grill, which is a franchise that just has a corner market that sells tacos and oversized burritos. And I'm hoping for them to expand nationwide so that they can build a nice moat and be the dominant fast casual king in America. Okay. So that's the growth portfolio. So you got growth, you got dividends, you got sector ETFs, you got passive investing that's worked out. Oh, and then by the way, you got this, boom, right? For all of my fellow colleagues out there, see, because I'm not the only one that works in government service, right? There's other people out there. Okay. And this is managed by a small company named BlackRock. They're really small. They manage about 8 trillion in assets. Yeah, they're pretty small, tiny, almost insignificant, to be honest with you. 156,755 of tax protected money. This is a Roth TSP. Every single dime that's went into this is tax protected. I contribute 30%, 30% of my paycheck. Why? Because I don't spend like a retard. Okay. So I can come on and convey that I have zero debt. How many people in the United States can do that? Yeah, not many. Not many, right? But if you don't like that aspect and you like the idea of going and getting into debt up to your eyeballs, unsubscribe to me and go somewhere else. It's fantastic. All right. The corporate account, starting a side hustle. I remember my first paycheck on YouTube was all of 7 cents. Okay. This is a slush fund with another account attached to this with some other dollars that have been generated from Cornerstone Capital Solutions LLC. So not bad. I'm the only employee, and that's good. Yeah, I'm the CEO. Um, I am the managing director, the financial guy, right? Which is the way I like it. I'm the boss. Okay. But I definitely wouldn't consider the independent investor channel as being a failure. Why? Because, well, not because I say that it's a success. It's because that so many people come back to the channel and they reciprocate that they put two and two together to equal dividends, Roth IRA, tax protection, contributions month over month, $3 cost averaging, right? Being fit for the long term, aspiring to compounding growth in their application. If you did those 5 things, you could become a self-made millionaire like I did last week. I'm not anymore. I fell below. So therefore, it's a failure. And you have an opportunity to come and throw lemons at me and tomatoes in the comments section and let me know how big of a shitbag I am if you'd like. It'd make you feel better. Seriously, try it. It'll make you feel, if you do it the second you hit send, it'll automatically make you feel like a better person. It will. It's awesome. Savings, not too much, right? So if I had a $400 expenditure like the rest of this country, it would put me in a financial ruin because I don't have any savings put away, right? So those unexpected expenditures, see, I have full insurance, so I don't worry about it as much as the average Joe. I will be eligible for a pension, which is also a thing of the past. So that's just another thing that all the investments that I'm declaring to you are white meat. White meat. You like that? Mm-hmm. Cash account. Wife's 401. This is the only one with a matching, little over 11,000. She's been working this for a couple of years. Meet that critical $10,000 threshold, a goal for regular people who come into the channel and they're like, holy shit, this guy's really interesting. He talks about the millionaire goal. Well, what's my goal? I haven't started yet. 10,000 is your first goal. Okay. Go through the simple thresholds, 500 to 1,000 to 25 to 5 to 10, right? Get up to that 10,000 as quickly as you can. My wife did it in less than two years, just by the sheer sake of signing up and grabbing those contributions, man. Pretty cool stuff. I've been sharing this for a while. This is the alt category. So just another small, very small aspect of why I shouldn't be trifled with. But social media is cool because you can come on and be cool by putting comments into the comments section that don't have any recourse. It's awesome. Like if you said that to my face, I'd punch the shit out of you, right? But you get to do it and be awesome. You can be like Rocky beating the shit out of Ivan Draga on Rocky 4. You can be your own superstar, man. You can name yourself your own Avenger if you want to. You can be that on social media. You can be anything you want. That's what I despise about social media, man. What you're seeing with me is what you get, and what you see is what you get. This is where we're at the time of doing this. Again, I want to point out this is a total failure. If I was going to come on and convey how to build wealth from nothing to something, I want to convey that the something here is a representation of a complete and utter failure. I want to make sure and convey to the audience out there that if you follow some of the tangible elements of what I share free of charge, if you don't like it, I'll give you a refund. Okay. I'll send you the free cost of my information back to you if you'd like. Okay. Quite frankly, you should be paying for it because the bottom line is that this shit does work. Okay. This absolutely works from cradle to grave if you give it the right amount of time, the right amount of mental application, and the right amount of discipline. Anybody can do this. And I've suggested this over the 10 years that I've been sharing YouTube. I spoke with the audience for many, many years. I've spoke with audiences through down and up markets, all of which I've weathered right along with investors. I'm one of those guys that come on and talk about the stock market as if it's not in a box and to be contained as an element or an avenue for you to put your money in and have it go up every day. Au contraire, right? It's an avenue to put your money in and expect it to be subject to volatility, but also expect that by nature of subjecting it to risk, you run the risk of making your money work for you and accumulating that money over time. Do you think for a second, let me put this back up. Okay. Do you think for a second that I've contributed $954,778 to my program? I'll wait. Is that what you think? Yeah. Yeah. I'll shut the live stream off here in a couple of minutes and I'll go about my business a very, very happy man. Okay. And the last thing I do with the few seconds that I would have where I would choose to come on and bash a content creator, especially like mine, I would feel terrible. I really would. I'd feel terrible. Yeah. Because that's just not the way I'm made. There's no productivity in that. It usually comes from a very, very dark and evil place. So I do put that assessment on you as well. But the compounding effect over your money does absolutely work. And something that you need to understand is that when we're talking about speculative investing, Mary Yush talked about the reality of sometimes it not working out. I talk about the reality of it not working out. I talk about the reality that at some point, at some time, that cannot be predicted, the markets will go down. The S&P will go down. Amgen, as awesome of a company as Costco. I shop at Costco every single week, Ryan. I look at it and it never ever goes down. I'm telling you, eventually Costco will adjust in its price. All stocks do, even Visa, which seemingly never gives you an entry to the stock. My point is, if you are going to dabble in a game that you are ill prepared to dabble in, you'll suffer. Okay? That's some tough love, and you can deal with it how you will. All right. But I'm not going to come in and sugarcoat this thing. There is no minor league stock market. It's just the major league. And we let minor league players play in the major leagues all the time because nobody has come to your face and told you you're full of shit. Okay. Yeah. You've got yourself convinced that your ability does not match up with your results. And it's okay. Anybody can learn. All you need to do is just check yourself, all right, and align a program that is in line with your capability and your goals in the stock market. That's it. Okay. It's really as simple as that. So we had a lot of people in the live stream tonight, man. Pretty good attendance. I appreciate that. I went a little overboard tonight. I'm glad I did. I was happy. I was feeling it tonight. I felt like it was worth it. Again, thank you to Mariusz for taking the time to come on and share his comments on and deliberate with me. Very cool stuff. Helen's been with me for a long, long time. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. $6 for a little bit wouldn't hurt my feelings. Yeah, no, it's whether or not it'll get that far down or not, I'm not sure. It may. It's volatile. There's no earnings. Very tight share float, tightly held. But we'll have to see how the volatility surrounds the stock. I mean, it could go to 10, it could go to 6. I don't know. I don't really care. doesn't really align with my long-term value, right? To make my decisions based on either 10 or 6 at this juncture. So, I'm a hold on the stock. It's that simple. I'm not accumulating shares. My position is set. But I took my first bite of Aduro in March 2023, right on. That's a little over 2 years. It's a few years before BlackRock did. I'm smarter than BlackRock. No, pretty cool stuff. I've got a bigger position than BlackRock. So, I don't think that's going to last very often, but facts are facts. Yeah, my 56,000 share base is bigger than a lot of institutions. As a matter of fact, quite a few of them. Um, don't wait for Q3. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, we talked about the buyout. I mean, speculation, Mike. It's worth talking about. If I was Total, I'd buy it. Total, European. Easier to break into the European market than here in the U.S. I know Shell. They've got headquarters in both Europe and here in Houston, but either one of those companies could gobble it up next week, and I wouldn't be surprised. They come over the top and they make a $950 million bid for it. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. Maybe it's a better strategic streamline for infinite funding in to help support the greatest invention of this century. Yeah, we'll see. How long until Aduro becomes profitable? Very premature question. The 10 million mark is, we discussed tonight, 10 million is a good benchmark for me, based on cost operations now. So at least to get the top line to cover. Now, profitable on the bottom line, that's a tougher question to answer. I think generating of revenues will ensue for maybe potentially many years before they actually turn a profit with the company. I will just say this: Aduro doesn't have any debt, so they're not starting on the wrong side of zero, and they got the goods, so they could accelerate it fairly fast, and their margins are phenomenal. So, they can make that gap up fairly quick between cost of operations, and the factor there is scale up cost, right? We want to see the project scale, and we want to see, financing go into projects that are going to help to that end. But I appreciate the question. It's just, way too much of a presumption. 2027? It's a guess. That's maybe a fair guess for you. You asked, I'll give you a shot. I could be way off. We'll see. Hmm. Hmm. That question's a tricky one to answer because all the different, I think we're looking at Q3 for the pilot. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the stuff that moves it. Here, Mike says, I mean, 2027, maybe. So we'll see what happens. We'll see as the story unfolds. Be kind of cool. Yeah. That's where Aduro really shows the feasibility of the process on a larger scale. So it's not a question of profiting, but being able to show major companies and investors that tech works. Yeah, I think the original showcase of that is going to be the most pivotal. I think that's going to be the one that sees the first domino fall. And we're still waiting for that catalyst, right? So we'll continue to wait patiently for that. So pretty good. Mike, I appreciate you coming in, man. You got some good convo here. I'd invite you back on the live stream, you've been with me a while, and thank you. I really appreciate been following this company since 21 December. Wow, right on, man. That I didn't catch during the stream. I didn't pay quite attention to that, but I'm just seeing it now. That's before I got in. So if Aduro stopped dealing with plastics, the company would still be huge. Yeah, interesting point. I think the company could have a potential of splitting into a three-headed monster. Cut shares to those existing verticals, and they could become companies in and of themselves. That's what I see happening. I'm just not sure if they'll be able to work all three verticals. I think each of the verticals are large enough as standalone verticals, and I that's what I think is going to happen. But interesting conversation piece, and thank you. Only an astute person would pick up on that insight with the renewable oils and the bitumen upgrading, and I mean, Jesus, the bitumen upgrading with the oil sands region of Canada, and the supplement to the diluent and the cost that goes into the pipeline and transferring, it's just like, holy shit. And they've had to just shelf that idea. And it's just like, wow, the idea of reaching out and tackling complex polymers, tires, which is something that just as of late, I thought, they're impossible. They have to go into, you know, playground material for the kids. I didn't think they could ever be reused, you know, but yeah, really good conversation piece. Mike, it's great. I'm glad to have you in the group, man. Thank you. And reach out to me, DM, and certainly make sure you follow me on X. I'm on there every day, right? So make sure you at least throw a subscription my way on X. Any details about the upkeep and maintenance? So I answered that this evening, Kinger. I hope you appreciated my stab at that. I gave you some of my insight and expertise. I'm very, very astute with mostly waterside facilities, but also some shore-based facilities. I've been to Dow Chemical. I've been to all the majors: Valero, Kinder, oil tanking, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell. I've been to all of them. Yeah. So fun stuff. Very good. Helen says investors have to understand it takes a year to 18 months to permit, build a demo plant. I think they're talking about an 8,000. They are. Yep. Good stuff. Some cool conversations. Serenity's here. Sorry, you're getting a ninth inning call out, but this thing is going beyond the moon. Yeah, I keep the two separate as they relate to each other, if that makes sense. In other words, I'm more interested in, I monitor the stock, but that's a very shallow exercise. Acknowledge where it's at. Okay, it's up. Okay, it's down. That's it. Aside from that, I really like to monitor the goings on at the company. And right now, I really believe that if my thumb is on the pulse, I think Ofer has that team flowing red right now. That's what I think. I think they do. I sense a passion and a vigor and honestly, almost a responsibility that they have with this Aduro opportunity. And this management has my full trust and latitude as a share owner. And it's one of those beautiful silver linings behind being a share owner in the company for the last short 3 years. Very cool stuff. Kind of scroll down. I think perhaps maybe I turned this around. Again, I would do like I do with any other troll. I would invite you to come on to my live stream and debate me in person. You better have your shit together. Nobody's ever taken me up on that offer. I'm like 976-0 on invitations for trolls that come on, and again, hide behind that comfort wall of immortality that social media bestows upon certain people like yourself. hmm hmm But like Mariusz said, start your own YouTube channel and you can enlighten the world with your revolutionary ideas. That'd be kind of cool, huh? Yeah, very cool stuff. It's a blast from the past right here. You're definitely getting an extra innings call out, man. And I haven't talked to you. I don't think I've talked to you that much in 2025, man. And it's great to see you. You just made my evening, Chris. Thanks for coming on, man. It's great to see you, man. Yeah, I'm above chief now, but I can't talk about it too much on social media. Keep that world of work separate. But yeah, after 20 years of doing it, you do gain a little bit of expertise, even for a slow guy like myself, who again bleeds common sense. And you only get to see the small reflection of me as the administrator of the Independent Investor Channel message, which I'm very proud of. But my bread and butter is made when I'm away from social media, and I'm very happy and humbled to that responsibility. It's great to see you, Chris. Thank you. Any other folks, man? I got Todd thinks it's great information. Todd, thank you. I appreciate that. It's not a total loss. Perhaps maybe according to Todd, it's only 97% bad, right? It was a poor attempt at humor. We're almost going on 2 hours, guys. Thank you so much. It was fun to do the 2 hour. This is where I usually get into my groove and I start talking in a way that's actually really a lot more comical and a lot more funny. But it's been a crazy week this week, and I am going to wrap it up. It's been a successful live stream. I know there'll be some people that benefit from the dialogue in this offering. But if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. There's a novel idea. And if you don't like the channel, an equally novel idea is to actually unsubscribe to the channel, because I wholeheartedly mean this. If you want to be here and you want to build wealth with this independent investor community, you can put it in your back pocket for free. And you could have been with me for the last 10 years. You could be with me for the next 10 years. You make the choice. I know I'll be here. I don't have a whole hell of a lot of choice. I just enjoy the project so much. And it's nice to be able to share and convey the journey as opposed to keep it all to myself and walk the journey alone. And I know there's people out there that are benefiting from it. And I thank you for that. Thanks for hanging out with me for the entire totality of the live stream, guys. Have a great rest of the weekend. And let me go ahead and get my outro here ready, man. It's kind of fun tonight. 2 hours. You think we could go another 2 hours? Aduro hits $50. I'm doing a 24-hour live stream. There's no doubt in my mind. It'd be pretty fun. But you guys take care of each other, man. And we'll see about reconvening next Friday on the fastest 120 minutes on YouTube, the Independent Investor Channel live stream. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week.